Hey there, you looking kinda cute. Please consider subscribing and check out our Patreon for more. Enjoy the video. The person went to the front of the store and pulled down the door shade. Then he reached for a switch that turned on lights in the store. That's better. Now I can see you better. Once he could see her better, Ed could tell she was in college. She was about 5 feet 7 inches tall and looked to weigh about 110 pounds. Her hair was golden blonde and her eyes were blue. He was still stunned and couldn't say anything. The woman then said, "Turn around slowly so I can make sure you're not armed." Ed did as he was told and slowly turned around. Once he turned his back on the girl, she could see that he was having a hard time. She said, "Let me help you with that." Ed jumped when he saw a stranger coming toward him. Then he got the biggest surprise of his life when the girl put her arm on his shoulder and told him to turn away. Then she finished putting the back of the dress together. She told them, "Now I want you to follow me." She took Ed's hand and led him out of the house and into the store. The girl took a brown shoulder-length wig off of one of the mannequins and put it on his head. She fixed it and said how much better he looked afterwards. She walked back to him and told him to sit down with her hand. Some chairs were there. She sat down opposite him. "Hi, I'm Julie. I take it you're a college student too?" Ed nodded. "I work here part-time. I come in at 10 o'clock and vacuum and clean the dressing rooms. You have no idea how much I wondered if I would ever meet someone like you. Please don't worry, I won't tell on you. May I ask your name?" "My name is Ed," he whispered. She laughed and said, "Calm down, Ed. Or should I call you Ellen? You know, Ed, I mean Ellen, you look like you've been around. I don't think I've seen you in any bridal magazines, have I?" Ed was too afraid to tell her anything. Julie knew he was nervous. "You know I'm a psychology major. I could probably write a paper about you. Do you want to be a woman?" "I don't know," Ed said. "I really can't explain why I like the feel of women's clothes." "How long have you been dressing up?" "Since I was 9 years old." "That's pretty young," she said. He shook his head when she asked, "Do you mind if I put some makeup on you?" Julie got up and reached for her bag. Ed asked, "How about a little lipstick?" She took out a tube of lipstick and put it on his lips. He got excited when she put the red gloss on his lips. He saw how her eyes got bigger as she talked. She said, "Oh my God, you're on the basketball team. I knew I'd seen you before. I'm a cheerleader." Ed wanted to freak out, but then he realized that Julie did look familiar. And when he learned that she was a cheerleader, he seemed to calm down. "Look, you have to forgive me, Julie. I'm just nervous. My worst fear just came true, and this is not what I thought would happen, if you know what I mean." "Did you think someone would call the police?" Julie asked. "Well, yes," Ed said. Julie grabbed Ed's hand. She pointed to a camera in the corner of the store and said, "Well, Ellen, that camera just took pictures of our little meeting here, and I'm sure it has pictures of your whole evening in the store. That camera has a night lens, so even when the store is dark, it can still pick up everything." Now, panic seemed like a reasonable response to his current situation. "Don't worry, Ellen," Ed begged. "I'll do whatever you want." "Yes, you will, Ellen," Julie laughed. Julie went to the phone and talked to a few people. She was whispering to the people, but he could hear that she wanted them to come to the store. Ed was starting to get antsy. He didn't want anyone to watch him. She gave Ellen a smile after she hung up the phone. "I have to take care of something. I'll be right back." Julie went back into the dressing room and got all of his clothes. She looked in all of his pockets and put his wallet and keys on the counter after she was done. He heard a steel door being opened and closed. Then Julie went back into the store to see what needed to be done. Ed asked humbly, "What did you do with my clothes?" She replied, "Well, my dear, your men's clothes don't belong in a women's store, so I threw them in the dumpster." Stupid question, he thought. "What are you going to do now?" she asked. "That's a good question. I think it's time to get you ready for our guests. I think I can do better than just the lipstick I just put on." Julie took more makeup out of her purse. She went back to her living easel and sat back down. "Hold still. I don't want to get any of this on your dress." First, she put on a coat of light bronze foundation. Then she used powder to make his face look smooth. Julie had to tell Ed where to look while she lined his eyes with a pencil. He tried very hard not to move when she put mascara on his eyes and brought the wand close to his eyelashes. With those colors, the next step was eyeshadow. The powder was put on the small brushes, and then, like an artist, she painted the colors on his eyelids. Julie put together some colors that really made his eyes stand out. "Don't forget that a blushing bride needs blush," she said. Finally, a container of rose-colored powder came out of her purse. She took out the brush and dipped it in the color, then used light strokes to put the color on his cheeks. Julie sat back and looked at what she had made. "You're really enjoying this, aren't you?" "Of course, you're mine, and I love being in charge. Why don't you stand up and let me show you off in front of the mirror?" Ed stood up and followed her back to the full-length mirror. Julie put him right in front of her so he could see himself in all of his new female form. The mirror had 3 parts so the bride could see herself from all sides. She turned on a wall switch, and a light above the mirrors shined down on the bride's head. Ed looked at himself in the mirror. He told himself, "This has to be a dream." As he looked at himself, everything else around him seemed to fade away. Julie took a step back and looked at what she had made, finding the one last thing that was needed to finish the change. She took a headpiece off of one of the dress forms. Flowers, fine white netting, and lace were used to make a crown that was put on top of the bride's head. As the crown was put on his head, Ed looked up. Julie fixed his hairpiece and pinned it to his head. The curtain was lifted. He couldn't take his eyes off the woman he saw in the mirror. Julie whispered in his ear, "You look beautiful, Ellen." Ed heard the name Ellen in his head and realized that he was no longer there. In his place was this woman who could have been his twin. Julie was startled when the doorbell rang. She ran over to the door and unlocked it. When Julie opened the front door, 2 of her friends came in. Roger Lowery, a guy on the basketball cheerleading team, and Liza Sweeney, who cheered with Julie and was also in some of her psychology classes. "I'm so glad you both could make it." "I've got a surprise for you both," she said. "What is it?" asked Roger. Julie laughed and said she pointed to where Ellen stood, oblivious to everything going on around her. Liza laughed and asked, "You brought us here to see her, right?" "No, to see him," Julie said. Both Liza and Roger's jaws dropped. They didn't believe what they saw. "I knew you both would enjoy the situation. When I walked into the store, he was trying on that dress." "What do you have in mind, Julie?" "Well, you and Lisa should just go along with it, and we'll all have fun with my new girlfriend," Julie told her friends as she led them to the mirror, where the bride was twisting and watching how her dress moved. When Ed saw that, all of a sudden, people came out of the back to watch. When he realized he was feeling like a woman, he stood there shocked as Julie and her friends stared at him and praised his beauty. "Ellen, I want you to meet some of my friends." Ed held up his hand and gave a short wave. He was so embarrassed that he couldn't believe he could say anything. Ed's rose-colored cheeks turned a brighter shade of red. Ellen got a smile and a wink from Julie. "You're going to do what I say, or your secret will all be shared on social media. What do you want me to do?" he asked. Julie and Liza both clapped when they sat down. "Now, Ellen, I want you to hold Roger's hand." Roger took Ellen's hand and held it tightly. Roger kept saying, "Now, Roger, repeat after me. I, Roger, take you, Ellen, as my lover for tonight. I will do whatever I want to you. I will keep your secret between me and these walls forever and ever." "Now, Ellen, you repeat after me. I, Ellen, promise to do what I am told to do." Ed took a big breath and repeated, "I, Ellen, promise to do what I am told to do. You will love, cherish, and obey forever and ever." "I will love," he said after clearing his throat, "cherish and obey forever and ever." "Now, Ellen, I think we should just skip the wedding and go right to the honeymoon. Don't you agree? Roger, why don't you show your new wife how much you love her?" She smiled. Thanks for watching. Part 3 is only available on Patreon. Be sure to check it out. If not, hope you enjoyed.